Hello, and welcome to the Exponential Growth Podcast, powered by Analyst Investors. I'm your host, David Olivencia, co-founder of Analyst Investors, and a passionate advocate for leveraging innovation and technology to drive success. In this podcast, we'll dive into the strategies that top leaders, investors, and entrepreneurs are using to navigate and thrive in this era of accelerating technological change. Whether you're looking to lead more effectively, make smarter investments, or understand how to harness disruptive technologies for exponential growth, this podcast is for you. Each episode will feature conversations with visionary thinkers, industry pioneers, and innovative leaders who are redefining what's possible in today's rapidly evolving world. So if you're ready to start and stay ahead of this curve, let's get started. This is Exponential Growth. All right, everyone. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Exponential Growth Podcast. Today, I have a great friend, leader, entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, graduate of Carnegie Mellon, amazing university, actually probably one of the leading universities in AI. I know that because my son applied there. He didn't get in, and he went to Purdue, and he's working at Accenture in downtown Chicago, loving it. But welcome to the Exponential Podcast, Ania Rodriguez. Welcome.
Hey there, David. Hey there, folks listening in. Great to meet y'all. I'm Ania Rodriguez, Cuban American, entrepreneur, like David said, and really just been at the cross section of technology, human behavior, business transformation since the beginning of my career back in 1998. I turned 50 in a week and a half.
Wow. Welcome to welcome to Club 5, Club 50, or the fifth floor. Welcome to the fifth floor.
Yeah.
That's not that bad up here. It's not that bad up here. Let's see. So let's dig a little bit deeper. So Exponential Growth Podcast, the first thing we'd like to do is just let everybody know who you are, right? And I mentioned entrepreneur, you got some, you started a company kind of more in the services space. You got a startup here that we're going to talk about and jump in, but let's go back. So born and raised Miami area, and how did you get from there to kind of Carnegie Mellon? That's good. Yeah. By the way, that's not an easy feat, by the way, right?
So
tell us your story.
So immigrant parents, Cuban, right? They migrated independently and met in New Jersey. I was born in New Jersey, so Jersey girl.
So not Miami, New Jersey.
New Jersey girl, yeah. But I was raised in Miami, so we moved down when I was 2. So raised in Miami, and then a smart kid, always liked psychology, liked human behavior, loved math, and so I ended up at Carnegie Mellon back in 1994. I liked engineering because it helped me see systems, not symptoms, and things like that. From there, I worked as an engineer, but in VR initially. So did a lot of VR stuff at Pratt & Whitney, early stuff, and then took a job with IBM.
So wait, VR, so virtual reality, I assume.
Yeah, so I did all my first
Well, I mean, but what year were you working on virtual reality?
So 1998, when we were still working on SMI machines, everything was very old school, really rudimentary, and we were doing some really advanced work there at that time. So fast forward when I started my consultancies, we did a huge engagement with Google in their AI labs, VR and AI labs together. And it was kind of a flashback to those early career days, right? Because we were back to VR, but in a much more advanced sort of timeline, right? Now with AI, even before, it was all pre-COVID still. So we were doing some really early work. But so for basically, I did IBM, and then I worked at a consultancy that was a SaaS company out of New York and San Mateo called Keynote. Now it's Dynadata, I think it is now. Anyways, at that time, I learned how to sell, which is amazing, right? As a good entrepreneur, learning how to sell is probably the most important skill.
I think it's the most important skill, for everything. If you're going to lead, you do it. You got to sell. You got to know how to sell.
You got to learn how to sell. So I learned how to sell there. Before that, at IBM, I was top. 1 year they picked top 10 women to follow or women to know at IBM, and I was one of those early young kids, which is interesting because fast forward, everybody is somebody now, right? CTOs, a founder of a fund. et cetera, et cetera. So there's been all of us.
Everybody you work with there is kind of doing interesting
Yeah,
roles.
those 10 women that IBM picked, those 10 women are somebody today. I kind of keep in touch here and there, and it's interesting to see how all of us ended up being somebody big, right, at some point.
All right, cool.
So early acknowledgement to IBM to figuring that pattern out. But yeah, so long story short, IBM, then I worked at this company, Keynote, and then I started Keylime. Keylime is basically one of the most respected UX firms in the US. And what it gave me, like, I loved engineering, but I also loved working with people, understanding issues that happen with like customer experience research. So I got a front row seat to everything that was going on. So, and we were working, and we have worked since the beginning, since day one. I've always worked enterprise companies. So all my customers, people always ask, how do you get these customers? I'm like, I know how to sell to them. I learned how to sell to them from the beginning, and it's something innate.
It's not easy, right? It's a different kind of, it's different. It's not easy. It's a different kind of sales, different kind of sales cycle, different needs, different processes. It's a different beast, selling enterprise.
Yeah. So but the challenge is the enterprises, enterprises are the most broken, right? They have fragmented systems. They invest a lot of money into try to figure out how to fix siloism, to transform, and yet they all get it wrong. They continuously fail us as customers, right? So, anyways, people, when I started building this, I had 3 ideas, right? And I thought, let me just validate with some of my customers. Amazon at that point was like, "Yep, build it and we'll buy it," kind of thing, right? And so,
when you say this, just so everybody's, when you say
this being JourneyTrack.
JourneyTrack. Okay, so you kind of, so you just so it's, so you did Carnegie Mellon, you did a couple things, IBM, lots of records, learned how to sell. You joined a consulting company, and then you started this. Did you? I thought there was another. Yeah.
That's so what I said.
What was your role there? What was you? You were just founder, right?
I was founder with $5 in the bank and a lot of things. ESPN was our first customer.
So that was your first. Yeah, it was your first kind of startup, if you will, right? And then you kind of work this enterprise, continue to work your enterprise sales, and then how long ago did you start JourneyTrack? Roughly when did JourneyTrack start?
JourneyTrack was started about 5 years ago, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And when I hit the 10-year mark at the other company, I was like, I got to do something bigger than this, right? We had been working with the enterprise companies, for about 10 years. So at that point, I'm like, let me move forward with this. So yeah, so for me, it was like I kept seeing the same problems time and time again. We were delivering this work to a lot of Fortune 500s. These are small. These are not small engagements. They're usually large. Transformation projects that require like journey mapping across, multiple countries, regions, personas, et cetera.
So Bob, wait a second. So there's, the audience may not even know what journey mapping is and personas and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Maybe just give us some, what is journey mapping? Why is it important? Why should my grandmother, my mother, well, not my grandma, but my mother, who might be listening, is like, why should she care? Or why should anybody care about what journey mapping is?
Yeah. So journey mapping is an artifact, typically, traditionally, right? As opposed to not like what I'm kind of creating, which is more of an operating model, but it's an artifact that people use when they're trying to understand that experience from the second we start thinking of, maybe let's just take buying a product, right? Maybe you're thinking of buying a new purse, right? Well, not you, maybe a book bag. Maybe
for my wife.
Yeah, for your wife for Valentine's. There you go.
Yeah.
And so you're thinking of buying that, and so what does that look like? You might do some research online, then you go to Tiffany's to check out what they have. You go to Fendi, you go to all these, whatever stores she might like, and you sort of, start to narrow down your options. So that's considering different options. Then you have that buying purchase, maybe because you have a private buyer at one of these stores, and that might be a very special experience, or maybe you're not, you're just buying it online. That's okay too. Either, everybody has different, ways of thinking about it. That's why personas are important. Personas are different types of buyers, right? Sometimes people use the word ICP, kind of related. Yeah. ICP is more like a general market, but the actual user, they like this and this and this is a clustering of user types is what I would say.
Persona could be for a husband buying a purse. The purse could be the persona could be a teenager buying a purse, or a wife, or so these are
the person. So there are different types of classes of users who have maybe different buying behaviors, attributes. Yeah. They have different frustration points. They have different understandings of what they're, and it's basically a way to cluster customer types together so that you can basically brand or market to this type of customer because you know how they want to be treated along that experience, right? Or journey, right? Journey is
so
all
that's good. So that's good. That's a good explanation of both the journey, and you think about it like you did an excellent job of laying that out, and then the personas. So this is a bit of what JourneyTrack does and what you're building. So walk us through a little bit about just, we kind of a little bit know what it is, but what's the journey been like? Man, startups are hard. I see thousands of them a year, invest in probably, I don't know, 20 or so a year. And they're hard. I see they're just hard. So walk us through it. Just walk us through this, a little bit of the startup journey and and what you guys do.
For me, I selected something I knew well, right? I was already pretty, to founders that are listening and folks that are just thinking about ideas, you pick something that so that you can you have a little bit of more subject matter expertise. And so I started there, right? As opposed to doing something I didn't know about, and I could, right? But I selected something that I thought at that time there was, I knew enough and I knew the buyers. I had already had that sort of, relationship with potential buyers. And so for me, I was an extension of the stuff I had already been seeing, but now trying to really solve the problem as opposed to treating it as one-off points, right? And so the basically what was interesting about this is there really wasn't tools out there that did the things that I wanted to happen, right? As a consultancy, I wanted to tie, like, when people fix things, did we know that things were getting fixed? How would that affect the satisfaction ratings of that brand? I wanted to connect all that data, right? And so there was simple like journey mapping tools, take a, Mural, Figma, Jam. There are simple tools, PowerPoint for all intents and purposes, like let you create little lucid, let you create the little
flows,
things. But then it's like a static map. And then so what? Like as soon as you've finish this thing, somebody has something to fix because it's already changing, right? So that's part of the challenge is when my other company would be delivering these maps, they kind of go, to me, they were kind of just moment in time. They weren't really representative of what was happening as the next day happened, right? And so I wanted to build something that was a lot more dynamic, right? So this dynamic fix is actually a new category of tools. There wasn't anything like that. And none of the tools had the things that I wanted. They were just mapping tools. And then there was even some little mapping tools, but there wasn't one that did integration with Jira, which is or systems where people get to know, is things done or not done? If you fix this part of let's just say for whatever reason in that journey, you had a bad experience because they didn't do something when you were checking out. They didn't offer you some extra, whatever.
Cross-sell or upsell you something.
Something that you would have
or insurance. They didn't offer you insurance.
And then your wife scratches the purse or something happens and you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't buy the thing, right? So there's that next, and I never was sold, and they're like, well, you should have bought the insurance for the purse. Well, you didn't do it, so it's on you, right? Well, you didn't know about it, so it's on them. So there's that moment of static. But the point is, I wanted to connect more than just a static map, right? And I knew that the business needs that because they need to understand what's happening.
Totally. You make me think about something. There's two things, right? It's like you're in this, the more it's about iteration and moving fast and trying things and improving things. And that is like the culture of a lot of these successful companies. But so you're always tweaking things. And so you need a tool like this, especially in the digital customer experience, right? So that it just hit me when you emphasize the dynamicness of it. If you're going to be successful here, you need that. That was one. The second thing I just forgot from earlier that I mentioned, I was an engineer and I had a minor in psychology. I love psychology. I love the brain. I love why people do what they do. So anyways, I saw that. I admire that about you, but it's also a synergy that we have. So I didn't want to forget that. So, okay. So JourneyTrack, now you've been doing this, like I said, 5 years, but you got a ton of momentum right now. You just received a huge accolade. It's public. I think you can give our audience the reward and its importance, or the recognition, or whatever they're calling it, its importance.
So Forrester, for the first time ever, has done what they call the wave, right? And for those that don't know what Forrester is, they're like one of the authorities in looking at softwares in different industries. Them and Gartner are pretty much the two top known entities that kind of do this work, right? There's other smaller ones, but those are the two big ones, right? In my world, Forrester is the one that does my category, and it's a brand new category. So in the past, they had done like journey mapping, but none of them had done which is a new category, which we kind of defined it as we were sort of pulling together, is journey management. Management meaning that you're not just like creating these static maps, you're managing the map over time and governing it and updating it and doing stuff with AI, right? And so for the first time ever, they've done this. We were part of that introductory wave. Not only were we part of it as the first time on any of these things, we basically had the highest strength of offering, which means we had the most complete offering according to Forrester. And then we had a perfect score in vision and strategy, like what our vision of where we're headed and where we see the future in this. No one else got that except us. And so it was amazing. So we had like, if you look at if you look at this little, like the leaderboard, there's three of us in the top. We're the youngest kid on the block, and we're like literally the top right. I can't say we're number one, but you can read between the lines.
It's like the top right. That's pretty much
Right.
number one,
It's
right?
everybody in the top is called a leader, but if you
Yeah.
look at us, we're the most complete leader, if you will.
Yeah, totally. No, so kudos for that. And you're, and I think you have a good footprint of Fortune, 500 customers and beyond, right? And then growing base. So thanks for, and then you said you live in Doral area, right? Of Florida, is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Florida.
cool.
I'm not
Cool. Oh,
Venezuelan, but there's a lot of Venezuelans here. So
yeah, no, totally. A lot of everything, but yeah.
yeah.
So okay, so thank you for that a little bit of the life journey there. Now let's talk about trends, investments, and leadership. So you a lot of enterprise customers, technical background. What would you tell our audience, or just from your viewpoint, some key trends that you see?
So
Exponential trends, things that are like
yeah.
yeah,
So everybody now is moving towards, like, in my world, is decision intelligence, right? It's not just saying, hey, we're going to use AI just to like review things, summarize things, right? It's really to like push it to an intelligence level, right? So the sort of the agentic push, if you will, so that like so we can, you can have that real time, like, okay, this is happening in the middle of these journeys. Like, what is the thing we should do, right? So that is sort of where we're all headed, right? From a vision and future and perspective, which is really neat because us as consumers, right? There's been a lot of times we feel failed by brands, right? They don't do the right thing at the right moment that we need them to do. Like,
totally.
especially like the worst is like sometimes insurance companies, when there's like a claim of sorts, right? There's a lot of like, emotion around the claim part of it because you've either had an accident, so you have someone die, something's happened, right? So there's like you have health issues, et cetera, et cetera. So perfecting those, like what they call moments of truth, right? And is going to be amazing for us as end users, right? And I think now we finally have things that are happening that are allowing us to structurally set that up so that we can have that real-time intelligence.
Well, and I think what that means is that for the listeners out there, the experiences online are relatively good and amazing and quick, and they make you think about what it was like to buy things online 20
Mhm.
years ago ish and what it is today, but with all of you can only it's only going to increase, like the ease and the
Yeah,
recommendations and making it easy, but
yeah,
all of that is powered
and
by
AI,
JourneyTrack. Yeah, AI, and then
AI,
JourneyTrack
and
being
journey
the
track.
engine
Yeah.
behind it. So that's any other kind of major
Yes.
trends
So
that
to
you're seeing?
me, we're entering that era, like just to kind of loop it a little bit better, right? We're in a sort of like we call self-orchestrating workflows, like where they're going to orchestrate themselves as opposed to us as humans have to be like pushing through together that call to our insurance company, et cetera, et cetera. Intelligent agents, right? And then predictive interventions, right? Like it's like at least going to, and that is huge for at least from an experience perspective because we all get stuck on that. So to me,
What's
that's
an
there, right?
example of a predictive? I think I know what it is, but give me a good example of a
You
predictive
always buy
intervention.
purses on your, let's say you always buy purses for your wife for Valentine's. I can predict you're going to buy it again. So instead of waiting for you to come to me as, wherever you buy Louis Vuitton, then I'm going to be like, hey, David, it's January 3rd. You should be thinking about your wife. Let's get you on that list. There's a special thing, that new person that's going to come out and makes you feel special, right? So I'm predictive. I know you continuously do this stuff, right? So it's that one-to-one predictive kind of thing where we can say, oh God, he is doing that. That's where we're headed. That's not where we're at right now. JourneyTrack is not that now, but that's where we're headed, right? All of us are headed that way fast.
Yeah, like you go to a restaurant, for the most part, I get roughly the same thing every time, so there's a lot of predictive things that you'd say, I'll call this pizza place. Every time I call it, I just, I want a large pizza, mushroom, sausage, maybe a deep, but it's like always the same thing, right? And then my wife, she usually get the same thing. It's like, but you gotta, I don't know. So, and there's some things that do that, but there's so much that that's going to be, where even like you wake up in the day and it's going to just predictively tell you all the things you need to do and, all that kind of stuff.
And solve half the things for you, right? So when we
totally, before
you had all these things you typically would need to take care of today. I already took care of you,
I already took care of them, and I'm like, here's tomorrow, by the way, and going back and forth.
Wouldn't that be amazing when we have like all those stressors, those things that just drive us all crazy, just gone? Oh, that would be nice.
The thing is, like with all the tech though, it doesn't. You're still busy, right? There's always like,
if only AI can clean my house.
More can help me out, but I still have more. I'm still just as busy. Oh, well, so cool. So that's on the trend side. Investing. So you have an interesting angle on investing because you invest yourself. You have a portfolio. I know you've invested in some venture funds. I think even some startups too. But you have a wide portfolio. But also you are a startup founder, so you receive money from investors, right? So it's an interesting angle. And investors who want returns and who are looking for high returns because it's a riskier asset class. So and our audience is everything from college kids to call it, middle class to executives, CEOs, board members. So it's pretty broad. But just how do you think about investing? And how do you, maybe the venture asset class or the startup asset class, but just investing in general, maybe the startup and venture asset class?
Yeah, I tend to, when I invest in others, right, I want to have something that's disruptive in nature, right? Something that's solving not just a one-off product kind of one-off issue. It's basically, solving an issue. I like founders who, like me, have done this work, whatever before. That's why I guess if they've been in banking and they're doing a banking app, I kind of like that. Granted, outside the box thinking can also be interesting sometimes. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm like, oh no, I can't. But I look at founders like that have grit, that kind of get it. When I'm looking out, I try to model those things inward, right? I think maybe to my a little bit to my device. I think I waited a bit when I was, raising around. I put the first million in, and then I was like, okay, let me show I can do this. I never have gotten venture capital, so it was a different way around, right? I've always built companies with just my own money or my own grit, if you will. And so this is the first time doing that. I wanted to test what it would be like to do that. It was a lot harder than I thought, right? To be on the other side of the table. And I think it still could be as I continue raising and, and the like, but you start getting smarter along the way. Granted, I'm new to also investing in other companies. As I started getting money, I started realizing I could invest in other founders I met along the way that I thought had really good ideas. So I kind of did both things together. It wasn't like I was already investing before I started looking for money myself. Before that, I just kind of did stuff that were like family and friends, if you will, but nothing ever more than that.
Yeah. So, it's maybe it was like the third dimension, right? You invest, you have a portfolio of it, but you also kind of invested in your, in your own business, right? Which is kind of a third dimension there. Other asset classes, maybe just outside of venture. What are your thoughts on how do you think about other asset classes, real estate, stocks, equities, bonds, crypto, anything? What are your thoughts on any of that stuff?
Yeah, so my husband used to be a Morgan Stanley guy. So just I have a personal finance guy. Now he's no longer that, but we have a pretty diversified portfolio. So we have some real estate, we have some bonds, we have stocks, we pretty much have a little bit of everything. I think in that perspective, we're pretty diversified. I'm probably like he carries a lot of that. That's why I'm the one that does like new and interesting versions of things. I try to tell him, let's try this new thing, but and then I'll vet it with him, and
He kind of stabilizes the investment portfolio, and you're kind of like
I'm the one
you're
that does the
managing
wild, risky things. Like
Yeah.
let's do this startup. How about this one? This looks neat. So,
Keeps it interesting. Keeps it interesting. Cool. Thank you for that perspective. All right, leadership. So you got the tech psychology thing, but IBM enterprise, growing a services startup, growing a startup firsthand, working with amazing leaders, leading amazing companies. What in this time of all this stuff going on, right? AI, other things, quantum. What leadership principles you think stand the test of time, and what advice would you give out to those in this time that we're in, right? How they should think about leadership and be
yeah.
phenomenal leaders.
Yeah. I have to remind myself day to day. I'm like, we're very tech forward, right? And interesting enough, for my current business, everybody is really sort of AI savvy, AI forward. My other business, consulting, it's scary for them, right? They think, oh my goodness, now, AI is going to do most of the stuff I do, right? And I think that feeling of like loss is especially for the younger generation who just got out of school studying the stuff, and now they're like, wait, what? It's shifting, and maybe the work that I thought I was going to do is no longer really needed because AI can do some of the basic stuff that they were asked to do as juniors, let's say. I think that's where you have to have a lot more empathy and just lead with like, they're learning, they're transitioning, help them build resilience and sort of that. I think there's a lot to happen, especially what I see in the younger generation is really their readiness to like shift, as even though there should be a generation that was born with this, it's kind of flipped right under their feet, if you will, and so they're trying to take it. I think for us that maybe are just love technology, love this stuff, it's to me, this is the most brilliant time to be like an entrepreneur in business. It's amazing. Like there's so many neat ideas that I can think of, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, if I could just do all these things, it's amazing, right? There's so many things happening right now that are just beyond. I see so much potential, and just it's so beautiful because you can develop in like a tenth of a time, right? Like
Totally, right.
crazy.
With a tenth
It's
of the
crazy.
people too. You could do it a tenth of the time with a tenth of tenth of the people,
So
and that's
and
only
it's like
getting
every
only
day.
bigger.
I
Yeah.
just looked at a tool the other day. Is that these Carnegie Mellon people, right? And then I found some other alternatives too. But when you do like penetration tests and all that stuff, that there's traditionally you would have to hire an agency to do a pen test. Now there's like autonomous tests that are just using AI. That's like basically gives you all
24/7,
the
24/7 AI,
24/7.
and
Like,
then
what
they're
is
getting
happening?
smarter and smarter on how to do it.
Forget
Right.
about like paying like an agency $15,000 to write a pen test to do stuff.
Totally.
I'm like, what? I just have a continuous like DAST and SAST and kind of dynamic and static testing that can continuously happen on every build. Psh, easy for like a
Totally.
fraction of the cost.
Yeah, I mean it's and this is why I'm doing the podcast, because I just we are in times of, I mean, the market, I don't know if like the markets today, I don't know if you took a look, the software, some software companies are getting pummeled. But change is happening so fast because they're saying that Anthropic can basically write code and do it, and the markets, they get scared. And
I love
I'm
cloud.
like, I'm like,
Not-
but software companies, I mean, you have one, but I worked in software companies, and they're really, it's, well, yeah, but who's going to support it and fix it and negotiate the contract and the terms? And if it's a little bit more, it's not as easy as just like being a software company. Is writing the code is a part of it, but it's a hell of a lot more.
yeah.
Than just that. So it'd be interesting. But no, I guess I'm saying like why I do this is that there's change happening really fast in amazing ways, and it's hard to keep up. So this is at least one vehicle for those who are listening, right? Hey, you get to meet phenomenal leaders like yourself, Ania, and but also learn a little bit about just different lenses and views on all this crazy exponential stuff that's happening out there. So Ania, I know you got a lot going on. You're growing and building an amazing startup. I want to thank you for taking the time to share your perspectives on this Exponential Growth Podcast. How do people follow you and keep up with you on social media?
Yeah, LinkedIn is probably best for me. You can follow myself or JourneyTrack. To me, I'm always willing to have conversations, especially with builders who are trying to build things. We tend to keep close and find each other. So if you're out there and you're building new things, reach out. I'm always interested in what's out there. I welcome any new conversations. Happy to connect. And
Excellent.
if you're looking for journey management tools, number one is here. So
there you go. Number one in journey management.
Leader coordinate. That's leader.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, sorry, the leader there.
That's what I had to say, right? Legally. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a fun time. So good stuff. Thank you for having me, David, today. It's been amazing. Again.